Mom, I got into an accident.
Jack, is it really Jack?
Mom, please help me. I'll be arrested if I don't get help.
My daughter-in-law played the role of a mother over the phone with a realistic performance. Someone claiming to be Jack responded on the other end of the line. I witnessed a scam for the first time and was left speechless. I continue to stroke my beloved cat's head in silence. My name is Mary, and I am 67 years old. I'm living in the countryside with the money my husband left me in my pension. My husband passed away suddenly 3 years ago, leaving me behind in a large house in the countryside with only one cat. Although I was left behind, I couldn't bear to leave my familiar home and have been living a quiet life ever since. I have 2 adult sons, both of whom graduated from all-boys schools and chose careers in science and engineering. I had given up hope of ever having grandchildren since they both seemed to have no relationship with women. One day, my eldest son Michael, who had just turned 38, suddenly came to me with a young and beautiful woman named Mia and announced that they were getting married. I was shocked to learn that she was only 25 years old. How did my shy son manage to win the heart of such a young and beautiful woman? The 2 of them quickly filed their marriage papers and even had a photo wedding overseas. Is this what people do these days? I couldn't shake off my doubts, but I could only watch over the newlyweds. Since my son and daughter-in-law rented an apartment in the neighboring town, they often visited me on weekends. Perhaps they were worried about me living alone in a big house. Although my daughter-in-law always came with my son, she never looked me in the eye. Even when I tried to start a conversation, she only gave me simple answers like yes or no, and our conversations always ended quickly. My son was also a man of few words, so I had to rely on the sound of the TV to fill the awkward silence. I told my son several times that they didn't have to come visit me if it was too much trouble, but he only said,
Well, Mia wants to see you.
I was afraid that if I told her directly that she didn't have to come, she might misunderstand me. Every weekend, I felt a knot in my stomach as I waited for them to arrive. My friend Karen was worried about my relationship with my son and daughter-in-law. She also had a bad relationship with her daughter-in-law.
I'm sorry to say this, but your son has no taste in women. It's not just about being young. This is why men are.
Well, but she always eats the food I make and cleans up the dishes, so I don't think she's a bad person.
Even children can do that. If she's a daughter-in-law, she should come to her husband's family and do housework and be a conversation partner for her mother-in-law, right?
Is that so? Is this the relationship between daughters-in-law and mothers-in-law in the world? I like cooking, so I don't mind treating my son and daughter-in-law to a feast, but...
You're too kind. Isn't she from a single-parent family? She hasn't learned the common sense of society. You should be more assertive.
I was confused by my friend's repeated heavy breathing and assertive comments. Yes, my daughter-in-law is from a single-parent family. Apparently, her parents divorced when she was too young to remember, and her mother raised her alone. Since she didn't see her parents' married life, there may be things she doesn't understand. I wonder how I can have a healthy relationship with her? If I express my weakness like this, I'll probably be scolded again by my friend who always says,
You're too kind.
However, I always try to find a peaceful solution to conflicts. One day, while I was struggling with these thoughts, an incident occurred. It was a weekday, and my daughter-in-law, who had a rare day off, came to my house alone. She spoke in a small voice, so I couldn't hear her well, but it seems she brought some vegetables she received from her workplace to share with me. I don't know if it was her intention or my son's instruction, but I couldn't just send her back after she came all the way to visit me on her day off, so we decided to have tea in the living room. Suddenly, the landline phone in my house rang. Nowadays, with cell phones being so common, the only people who would call the landline were my friend Karen or some relatives. So I answered the phone casually, but the person on the other end was unexpected.
Is this the Smith residence? This is the police.
What? Police? I shouted in surprise at the word police. My daughter-in-law was also startled and looked at me. What do the police want with me?
Well, you see, your son got into a traffic accident on his way to work. The victim was seriously injured and taken to the hospital.
A traffic accident.
He hit a pedestrian crossing the street, so he will be subject to a very severe punishment.
That's terrible. Hitting a pedestrian on a crosswalk. I was shocked and speechless. The man claiming to be a police officer continued to speak in a calm tone.
However, the victim's family are kind people, and they won't press charges if the matter can be resolved with money.
Is that so? Based on the situation, my son was definitely in the wrong. I had mixed feelings of gratitude and guilt towards the victim's generous offer, and my thoughts were spinning around in my head.
However, your son has not joined any optional insurance, and it seems that he cannot raise enough money, so you need to prepare about $35,000 for your son.
Yes, $35,000. Huh? I gasped at the number of $35,000. Is the amount reasonable? But before that, something is wrong somewhere. Not enrolled in optional insurance? That's impossible. After all, my sons request annual enrollment from my acquaintance's insurance agency. Huh? Which one caused the accident, the eldest son or the second son? Since the eldest son's wife is here, I had assumed that the second son had caused the accident. Excuse me, is the person there really my son? The man on the phone sighed heavily in response to my timid question.
I understand that you don't want to accept reality. But Jack did cause the accident.
Jack? Jack?
Mew.
My beloved cat, who was curled up beside me, raised its head and rubbed against my leg. Jack.
Mew. Her.
Yeah, Jack is a cat. So, what is this phone call about? My daughter-in-law conveyed to me through her smartphone screen to please switch to a call with Jack himself. Can I speak with Jack, please?
I understand. Just for a little while.
While the other person was on hold, my daughter-in-law quickly picked up my receiver. She then began talking to a man claiming to be Jack on the other end of the phone. He sniffed.
Mom.
Jack, is it really you? Why did you get into an accident?
I'm sorry. I didn't notice the pedestrian while playing with my smartphone.
He sniffled.
Well,
Please, Mom. I need money. Otherwise, I'll go to jail.
I understand. I will take care of it.
Mom. Thank you.
I was overwhelmed by my daughter-in-law's realistic performance. It seemed that the man on the other end of the phone had been replaced by the fake cop, so I quickly switched to the phone with my daughter-in-law and went along with the fake cop's story about how to deal with the situation. When the call ended, my daughter-in-law sighed.
It's a typical scam.
I knew it. Oh, but wait. You said you would prepare the money, right?
Yes, I'll contact the real police now. If the fake cop comes, please do your best to act.
Acting? That's impossible. I panicked, but my daughter-in-law firmly held my hand.
It's okay, I'm with you.
Mia. My daughter-in-law didn't look me in the eye and our conversation didn't go well. When I thought about it, it was strange that she visited my house alone at this timing. Can I trust what she says? My friend's warning to be careful with your daughter-in-law also crossed my mind. However, I wanted to believe in my son's innocence and in the woman he chose. Okay, I understand. I made up my mind and decided to trust my daughter-in-law. At the appointed time, 2 fake cops rang the intercom at my house.
This is the police. We've come to collect the settlement money.
Yes. I timidly showed my face, and the 2 men loosened their lips with a triumphant expression. But, is it really Jack? He's so serious and cute. It's hard to believe that Jack caused an accident.
You still don't believe it? Look at this. It's Jack Smith's arrest warrant. If you don't prepare the settlement money right away, we'll have to execute this.
The document presented had Jack Smith written on it. Well, Jack, you're driving without a license.
Mew?
Jack, who was at my feet, approached me with a meowing voice. But the fake cop didn't notice anything.
Without a license? That's even worse.
Jack, you're driving with those cute little hands of yours.
Mew.
Huh?
The fake cop felt something was off about my words and gaze, and looked down at Jack. Jack, are you hungry? Shall I feed you?
Mew.
I held Jack, who was excited by the word food, and faced the fake cop. This is our 3rd son, Jack Smith.
What?
The fake cop jumped up in surprise. I lifted Jack's front paw and said with a sarcastic smile, I'm sorry for causing an accident, Mew. The fake cops were red-faced after being hit by a huge boomerang. One of them said,
What are you talking about? You're deceiving the police.
I replied, but you said Jack caused the accident.
You old fool. Deceiving the police is a serious crime. You'll be fined.
You are the ones deceiving us.
What?
At that moment, my daughter-in-law and a real police officer who were waiting in the living room jumped out.
You guys are the ones deceiving us with such a random phone call. It's funny that you actually came to our house.
What? No way.
Let's hear the details at the police station.
The fraudsters tried to leave the entrance in a hurry, but they were stopped by another unit waiting outside.
No way.
The police officer surrounded the fraudsters who were sitting down in despair. While looking at it, I took a deep breath and said, Oh, my heart is pounding.
You were like a leading actress.
That's because the scenario and acting guidance were good. My daughter-in-law chuckled at my response. I smiled with my daughter-in-law. Her smile was very cute, and it was the first time I had seen it. However, the incident was not over yet. Just as we finished the police questioning and returned home, the intercom rang loudly. On the monitor, Karen, my friend, was standing in a fierce pose. I opened the door with determination because I expected this to happen due to the police's story.
My son was taken away by the police because of you. You deceived him and called him to this house. Clear up the misunderstanding.
She started off with this. Yes, one of the 2 fraudsters was Karen's son. I heard that Karen's son and his wife got divorced because of Karen's bullying of her daughter-in-law and his cheating, and he was sued for a large amount of compensation by his ex-wife. It seemed that his divorce caused a scandal involving his company, and he was fired and couldn't find a new job, and he was in a lot of financial trouble. At that time, Karen told her son that I was a kind-hearted old lady living alone with my husband's inheritance and that I had 2 sons. Karen's son, who was blinded by money, then planned this crime with his friend. The reason why our family information was subtly leaked was because it was a crime committed by someone close. The plan was sloppy because it was thought up by amateurs. It seems that Karen did not lend a hand, But it is true that her son came up with a crime from her gossip. Even so, I was going to forgive her if she apologized for her son's wrongdoing. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem to work that way. Her eyes were filled with hatred, and she pointed her blade at me. I didn't deceive you. I just reported it to the police because I thought it was a fraud.
If you had told me from the beginning that Jack was a cat, my son would have given up on the fraud.
We don't need such compassion for swindlers.
No.
She stomped her feet in frustration.
My son and I are in trouble. If you're a friend, please help us with some money.
She was screaming something that didn't make sense. I won't waste the money my husband worked hard to leave behind by helping criminals or people without morals.
No way. That's not fair. Why are you the only one who's so lucky? My ex-daughter-in-law has no manners, so I just tried to discipline her a little, but she ran away. And my son's infidelity is a sign of his manhood. It's unfair.
Huh?
I thought you were a poor woman living on a pension who couldn't even have any grandchildren, so I was being nice to you. But your son got a young wife and you have a lot of your husband's inheritance.
I had been looked down upon like this by her I trusted as a friend. Shock and anger welled up inside me. Don't treat my daughter like an object.
That's what I hate about you hypocrites.
She looked up at the sky and howled like a wolf.
Give me money. $35,000. Quickly. Your friend is in trouble.
I'm not your friend anymore.
No way. If you get too cocky, you'll regret it. Be prepared.
Is that a threat?
A threat? Humph. If you want to know if it's a threat or not, why don't you try walking alone on the streets at night?
I see. I'm naive and too trusting, so I'm not used to this kind of thing. That's why I'll report everything you just said to the police.
Huh?
Time seemed to stand still as her face froze in a demonic expression. At that moment, my daughter-in-law appeared from the living room and shook her smartphone.
I recorded your scary threats perfectly.
Karen's face turned pale in an instant.
You set me up, didn't you?
You dug your own grave?
You are being taken advantage of by her who grew up with a single parent like that.
Even if both parents are present, there's always a chance that their child will grow up to be a criminal like your son.
No.
She let out a final scream and ran away. After that, I sat down with my son and daughter-in-law and talked for a long time. It turns out that my daughter-in-law had been trying hard to find a way to get close to me. She grew up in a single-parent household and had grown tired of her mother, who kept moving from man to man. Despite this, she felt a motherly love for me, her husband's mother.
I was really happy when you talked to me and made delicious food for me. But I don't have any education or common sense, so I'm always worried about being rude or disliked.
Mia. It seems that even when she was young and living alone, she had honed her skills to fend off solicitation calls, which helped her act as my substitute during a phone scam. She also came to my house alone for the first time because she was worried about a suspicious man who had been looking at our house the day before. I hugged her tightly, feeling her awkwardness and shyness, which were more pronounced than mine, despite her being a size larger than me. Thank you. I'm really happy that a strong and kind person like you became my daughter-in-law.
Mom.
Yeah, Mia is a good girl, and Mom is kind. I thought you two would get along.
I glared at my son, who nodded in satisfaction. You need to learn to be more considerate of others. Mia, don't hesitate to do what you want.
I'm sorry.
As my son scratched his head, my daughter-in-law giggled. I wish from the bottom of my heart that I would see that smile many times in the future. 5 years later.
Jack. Let's play.
Come down.
Mew.
Afraid of being jostled by my grandchildren, Jack ran up to the top of the refrigerator.
Jack, calm down.
Come here.
Mew.
Jack's dutifulness in answering when called by name was still the same. As I watched this scene with a smile, my daughter-in-law spoke to me.
Mom, I heard that there have been many phone scams in the city recently. Are you okay?
I'm fine. If Jack gets another call, I'll just chase them away with a bang.
Oh, Mom.
My daughter-in-law laughed heartily. I laughed along with her. Jack, who thought he was being called, responded with a good mew.
How was this story? Please subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.